Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, live and exclusive across the UK on Sky Sports, and to our boxing fans joining us around the world, we welcome you to the MEN Arena here in the beautiful city of Manchester, England, as we have a big night of action in store for you, and it's all brought to you by Frank Warren's Sports Network in association with FrankWarren.tv, Sky Sports, and Showtime, as sponsored by Nemiroff, UTEC, and the Mackenzie Corporation. At this time, we present the first of our world title attractions. This bout also made possible by Gary Shaw Productions, and it is sanctioned by the International Boxing Federation, the President, Marion Mohammed, Supervisor, Lindsay Tucker, along with the British Boxing Board of Control. The steward in charge is Dennis Lockton. Introducing to you at this time are three judges scoring this bout from ringside. From Dorchester, England, we have Howard Foster. From Kent, England, Roy Francis. And from London, we have Dave Paris. Introducing our third man of the ring, the referee in charge of this bout, Ian John Lewis. All right, fans, here we go. 12 rounds of boxing for the interim IBF Junior Welterweight Championship of the world. Introducing to you first the challenger. He is on my left, fighting out of the red corner, entering the ring wearing white trunks with orange trim, and hailing from Newcastle, Delaware in the United States. He weighed in at 9 stone, 13 1/2 pounds, or 139 1/2 US pounds. His outstanding record includes 35 wins, 1 defeat, 2 draws, with 19 wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the United States Boxing Association champion, currently ranked number 3 junior welterweight in the world by the IBF, introducing the challenger, Michael No Joke Stewart. And his opponent across the ring on my right, fighting out of the blue corner, this 12-round championship attraction. He is the defending world champion, wearing black trunks with white trim, fighting out of Washington, D.C. by way of Tacoma Park, Maryland in the United States. His weight, 9 stone, 13 pounds, or 139 US pounds. His record stands at 53 wins, 3 losses, with 30 wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 2-time 140-pound world champion. Here is the current interim IBF junior lightweight champion of the world, known as the Little Big Man, introducing Shannons Mitchell. Once again, a referee in charge, Ian John Lewis, now to give instructions. 12 rounds of boxing scheduled.
Boxers? I am the referee. I spoke to you both in the dressing rooms. Obey my command at all times. You both know the rules. Watch the heads, kick the punches up. When I shout break, you break clean. And remember, defend yourself at all times. Shake hands.
A real East Coast fight in jolly old England. Why not? Shannons Mitchell told us he's going to school Mike Stewart, wants to return to all that sharp stuff. Slips and rolls, as he called it, maybe even a bolo punch or two. Mike Stewart said devilishly, "I like to wreck a party," meaning the already proposed Hatton-Mitchell showdown. Stewart, a tough, gritty, punishing, straight-ahead guy. Not a particularly big puncher, but he can wear you down. As the third man, Ian John Lewis of Kent, England, brings the two fighters together. Round 1 scheduled for 12. Big question, Al, will Shannons Mitchell be as vulnerable tonight as he was in his last fight, or will we see Mitchell's vintage hand speed, his boxing skills, and excellent technical defense?
Well, you already see the hand speed from Shannons Mitchell, and while he wasn't thrilled with his performance against Lovemore and Nadeau, of course, he ended up winning a decision in that fight. Stewart's defensive liabilities are a big question in this fight. Will Mitchell be able to hit him at will up the middle?
Yeah, one of Mitchell's great assets, his ability to avoid getting hit with clean punches, but he was nailed more than we've ever seen in the Nadeau fight. Was that a result of his opponent being faster than he thought, or is he finally beginning to show signs of age and a long career?
Here in this first round, Mitchell attacking a little bit more than you might even anticipate, not giving as much lateral movement to Stewart. There's Stewart trying to dig the hook. He's really going to focus on trying to land that hook to the body and the head, Mike Stewart.
Nice left hand as Mitchell now goes to the body. Mitchell not very prone to the right hook, more a combination puncher and a jabber, and a straight left hand just landed. That's also a good weapon, which dropped Ben Tacky in round 11 of that fight. The only time Tacky's been down. Hatton did a great job against Tacky, technically speaking, but he never got him down like Shannons did.
Mitchell jab's been very effective in round 1. There's that hook from Stewart. He's going to be committed to that punch, especially to the body. But Mitchell's done a nice job with his combination punching.
It was right on the hip by Stewart. You saw the grimace by Mitchell. Stewart, who got his nickname from his manager in the amateurs, who once said, "Hey, this kid's no joke. It's stuck." Under a minute remaining, round 1 from Manchester, England. Crowd settling in. Mitchell in the black trunks, Stewart in the white with the red trim. Stewart very dedicated. After an 8-hour workday in construction, drives 45 minutes from Delaware to train in Philly. Works out for 2.5 hours, then drives home. Has a huge following back in Delaware.
They're filling the sports bars there. And so far what they're seeing is, while Mitchell's having a pretty good first round, Michael Stewart's not in awe of this situation or of Mitchell. He's getting a few things done in this first round. So, and surprisingly, the right hand got there. This is where he wants Mitchell, even though others are being blocked. And Mitchell told us he might try to rope it up. Maybe this is his version of it.
Yes, he did. So this could be a little game of possum being employed by Shannons Mitchell, covering up as Stewart unleashes. Stewart got a good right hand in just before the bell upstairs.
Looking good, baby. Looking good.
Shannons Mitchell backed himself against the rope here, and you see Stewart doing what he does, which is start to dig to the body, try and get to the head. Now the head shot's blocked mostly, the body shot's getting through, and this appeared to be a specific ploy by Shannons Mitchell, but meantime those body shots did land.
Round 2 after an interesting end to round 1, which had to give Stewart some confidence, even though it may have been a scheme by Shannons Mitchell.
And we would remind you that here in England, we are not allowed to put our microphones in the corners, and that's part of the reason why we don't hear, or sometimes we'll hear not as well as we would like. Sometimes we will hear a portion of what's said there, but from our camera mic, but not as well as we'd like.
What'd you say? 30 seconds into round 2.
I know you were going to say that.
So predictable.
Interesting first round, you know, an entertaining one, a competitive one. And, you know, there's the right hand by Stewart. That's something he's landing a little more than I would have anticipated early in this fight.
Hold! Hey!
Well, this is Mitchell. This is the shortest turnaround for Mitchell since 1996. So he's back in the ring very quickly. He thought that would be a big benefit to him. And so far he's looking sharp, even though Stewart has also done well.
Mitchell said he wants to retire. Good left hand, upper area, neck area by Shannons Mitchell. Seems to be dancing around a lot more. Now the hand speed coming through, going to the body, going upstairs. Mitchell looking a lot sharper here in round 2. Sort of getting his bearings. He said he wants to retire after 60 fights and one more belt. The rate he's going, that might be next week.
Said his promoter, Gary Shaw, wants him. He wants 60 fights. Gary wants him to fight till he's 60.
Right.
You know, Mitchell is boxing well from the outside and landing some pretty good shots. But the one thing Stewart has done, I think, is a little better job defensively.
Mitchell clipping Stewart on the top of the head there. And Stewart momentarily losing his balance. Mitchell getting wrapped with a nice connection off a left hand by Stewart on the cheek.
Now, you know, that was about as good a left hook as Mike Stewart can throw to the head. Did it hurt Mitchell? Probably not. And maybe that's a bad sign. And some blood also coming from under the eye of Stewart. But I'll tell you what, he's being very aggressive, Steve.
He is. He is prone to cuts and head clashes. He had plastic surgery, did Stewart, over his left eye after a fight with a fighter named Mike Davis back in April '02. He'll stand in and trade, as you can see, and that abrasion gets a little worse underneath the left eye. Very red now, Mike Stewart. And it's starting to swell up as we speak. 13 seconds left in round 2. It's been a much improved round for Sharmba Mitchell. After a sort of a feeling out process in the opening 3 minutes.
This is a straight left hand from Sharmba Mitchell that may have been where the cut under the eye occurred and started with the swelling. Yeah, it glanced right off the bottom area of the eye. Yeah, and you can see Stewart touching it. So there might have been a little swelling already, and then that created the cut. Nice straight left hand by Mitchell.
10 seconds.
There's a great close-up off that scraping shot by Sharmba Mitchell under the eye. At least the cut is in a good spot for Stewart underneath the eye, although we'll see if the swelling becomes a factor. Stewart in very good hands with veteran trainer and cutman Leon Tabs. It is round 3 scheduled for 12. An early cut under the left eye of Michael Stewart. We'll see if it impacts.
You know, coming into this fight, really, we thought it was a very good style matchup, and I think it's been just that in the first 2 rounds. Very, very interesting fight, and part of it, let's give Sharmba Mitchell credit for making an interesting fight. He has been willing to, while he's given some lateral movement, stand and exchange with Stewart, and that's made it more entertaining.
Mitchell's game, though, predicated on hand speed, wild swing and a miss off a left hook try by No Joke. The referee bouncing in there, Ian John Lewis, from the home of Packy East, also known as Bob Hope.
That's former amateur boxer.
Before he got into showbiz, Kent England. Minute gone by round 3.
Michael Stewart's never fought outside the United States, and when he came here, he said he got 2 instructions from his daughter. One, she said, "Daddy, don't get cut." Unfortunately, that's already happened already. And she said, "Come home with another belt." Of course, he's got the USBA belt, and this is the belt he really covets, the World IBF Championship.
2 successful defenses of that USBA crown. Ranked number 3 by the IBF, 6 WBO. This for an interim title.
You know, the lateral movement now and the defensive skills of Mitchell becoming a bigger issue, and the hand speed as well. And Stewart's having a much tougher time hitting him.
Yeah, Mitchell having more difficulty as time goes on with the slippery southpaw.
And there he almost had Mitchell cornered on the ropes, couldn't get him. Part of the problem so far for Michael Stewart is I think he landed some right hands very early in this fight and felt that was going to be the punch that would work for him, and he's been a little right hand happy when in reality his game is those double left hooks, and he should be stepping to his left and throwing that punch, and he's really not doing it. There it is.
And Mitchell's speed really coming to the fore now. Right hand landing upstairs by Mike Stewart that backs Sharmba Mitchell up.
Hold him, Mitchell! Hold him, Mitchell! Fight!
Mitchell's punches, though, seem to be more precise, more accurate. They're beginning to connect, land more. He pulls his way in, a la Mike Stewart, goes to the body. Sharmba Mitchell with a good left hand, and now he is scoring at will. Oh, Mitchell. Stewart in a bad place, up against the ropes. Off the body attack by Sharmba Mitchell.
It's the combination punching from Mitchell that is so excellent. Stewart, I think, thought he was going to be able to counterpunch from there, but couldn't do it. When Sharmba Mitchell starts to throw combinations like this, he's a very tough man to deal with. It all starts with the jab, and as Mike Stewart then backs up, it's a good effort by Mitchell to land those combinations. Here's the jab. It's so effective for him early in this fight. And here's where Stewart ended up almost going out of the ring and literally partially going out of the ring. And that is an indication of the foot speed of Mitchell.
That had to be a great close-up shot for Showtime photographer Tom Tassell. Just off to the right of your screen. Round 4 scheduled for 12. Stewart's only loss in 38 fights. February 02, a split decision to speedy veteran Doran Spivey. He's got another speedy veteran in front of him tonight. Mitchell was all over Stewart at the end of the third round, and he's getting back now. That's a knockdown.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Stewart down for the first time in his career by his account. Has never been down. He did receive one standing 8 back in 2000.
I believe that was a warning for low blows given by the referee to Sharmba.
Ian John Lewis cautioning Mitchell, who just landed with a right uppercut and looking to end matters here in the 4th. A very aggressive display by Sharmba Mitchell. Battering Stewart all around.
He's using every single kind of punch you can use. The jab, the straight left hand, uppercuts, right hooks, you name it. Sharmba Mitchell is throwing it and throwing it very accurately.
We are seeing Mitchell's entire repertoire here. He's just emptying it out. And a big right hand to the head. A right hook by Sharmba Mitchell, which is something you don't see him often throw. Usually left hands or combinations or jabs.
You know, the interesting thing is they're still with the hook. I was going to say, he's landed some big punches, but it didn't hurt Mitchell. It did this time, though.
He got Mitchell's attention with that flurry. He continues to dig to the rib with left hands. Beautiful rebounding here in the 4th round by Mike Stewart with still a minute remaining.
He was on the verge of going out with Stewart, and that's not to say he still won't, but that left hook helped him get back in the fight.
So some good ebb and flow here in the 4th. Now Mitchell coming back. Stewart swinging wildly and missing.
Stewart had landed some big power shots, but not hurt Mitchell. That hook was the first one that really stunned him, which also speaks to the fact that the hook should be the power punch he's looking for, not so much the right hand.
Michael Stewart making a point that he did not come here to be a mere opponent. Holding his own against a terrific, slick fighter, Sharmba Mitchell.
And of course, Mitchell still won the 4th round and won it big, and it was a knockdown round, but otherwise, if not for that left hook and a little flurry, Stewart might be gone right now.
Stewart showing that he can bounce back with terrific results. So Mike Stewart, after going down, coming back and doing well, although it was a big round for Mitchell.
Sharmba Mitchell's not a fighter that has power. Well, he does. And there was a tremendous straight left hand, followed by yet another, and it sent Mike Stewart down. And as you point out, the only time he's been down, though, he had a standing 8 count. And then here's where a low blow, it's kind of right on the belt line, got a pretty decisive warning from the referee. That did not look intentional by Sharmba Mitchell. Here's where Stewart was able to land. He landed a left hook just before this. And look at the body shot by Stewart. He's a good body puncher, and that might have been one of his best punches of the fight. And there again, this was after he'd already turned things around in that round a little bit. So this has been a very entertaining, though one-sided fight.
A very exciting 4th round after Stewart was on the canvas. Briefly, he came back and looked very impressive in the final minute or so of the round. Now round 5 scheduled for 12. It's for the interim IBF junior welterweight title. Sharmba Mitchell in the black, Mike Stewart in the white. Mitchell from Washington, D.C., Stewart from Delaware, born in Tennessee. And Stewart giving a very fine account of himself in very difficult conditions. Crowd was cheering Mitchell when he walked into the ring, but they've now gotten behind Mike Stewart, the underdog. Stewart continues to chase Mitchell around. Tough target. Stewart basically right there for Sharmba. Again, Stewart trying to go to that body, and that has been his most effective weapon, the body punch.
We saw those 2 left hooks. He dug to the side of Mitchell. He's just an excellent body puncher. But Sharmba Mitchell is a durable fighter, with the exception of his knee problem, which of course led to mostly to his losing to Costa Zoo. He is just a very durable fighter with a very good chin, and he's tough to hurt to the body or the head.
Mitchell's had recurring knee problems. The left knee has been the big factor. The original injury actually took place prior to his title fight in Paris with Khalid Rahilu back in '98, a torn lateral collateral, in which the scar is still quite visible on the left knee.
And even if you ask Mitchell, is it 100%, he'll never say that. He always said, well, it's okay, it's good, but, you know, it's always going to be a little bit of a problem. In this round, Stewart has been countered like that, but he's gotten a little more done, both to the body and the head. And really, in the middle of the last round, it looked like there was no way. Oh,
there he goes, down for the second time, Stewart.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Again, Stewart up very quickly. He's got 23 seconds to get through round 5. Down for the second time. Never down before this fight. Good left hand, straight left hand by Sharmba Mitchell to the nose of Stewart. There's another left hand by Sharmba Mitchell. That connected.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop it, man. Ain't no sense in taking no beating like that, man. If you're not gonna fire back, all right, I'm gonna give you a little more time, baby. You know, let me up and down on that canvas like that.
Sharmba Mitchell's left hand has been very effective and powerful. And of course, it always starts with a jab that freezes Stewart, as it did there, and the left hand sends him down. Stewart has had defensive issues before, though he's keeping his hands pretty high. When he tries to throw the hook, he is countered with the straight left hand by Sharmba Mitchell, who shows that he is a fighter that has some power.
Corners, 10 seconds.
Even a jab that doesn't land will help you land another punch, and that is a perfect example. That jab helped land the straight left.
What a short, compact, crisp punch by Sharmba Mitchell. And Stewart going down in very awkward fashion. As soon as he sat down on his stool, he said to Leon Tabbs, "Don't stop it." And Tabbs says, "I will if you don't fire back." So we'll see what transpires from this point on. Round 6, scheduled for 12. And Stewart has already been on the canvas 2 times in the last couple of rounds.
And with those 2 knockdowns and the fact that it's conceivable most every round has gone to Mitchell, Stewart is in a terrible predicament if this fight would go the distance, which, you know, the way he's being hurt, you have to wonder if it will. Last 2 rounds, 10-8 rounds for Sharmba Mitchell.
Take a look at press row scoring. It's all Sharmba Mitchell. Abrams from Boxing News, Campbell from IrishBoxing.com, Lewis from the Times.
And the daunting task here for Stewart is that he's hit Sharmba Mitchell with some pretty big punches. Only one at an impact, that left hook in the last round. But the other times he's hit him with some pretty good power punches. Mitchell has not been phased.
And the frustration factor has to be entering into the head of Stewart, who just ate a beautiful right jab.
They took this fight, the Mitchell people did, feeling that this would give them in some approximation what they would face against Ricky Hatton. Of course, the fact is Stewart's a little more upright. He has more defensive problems than Hatton, at least the current version of Ricky Hatton, but his style is somewhat similar. And they wanted to demonstrate and also get some good experience against what they felt was a similar style and demonstrate that they could handle it.
Certainly, Mitchell no different from all other fighters who could use a little dose of confidence after a questionable victory.
And he'd had a series of very good fights, including the Van Tappen fight that we showed here at Showtime. He had some great fights leading up to the Lovemore and the Dew bout. And, you know, it was understandable that the Zoo fight was canceled, that mentally he might not have been as into that fight as he would like.
He had 5 tremendous fights before the Dew fight. So many distractions going into the Dew fight. As you point out, the Kostya Zoo pull out, the letdown there. 9-month layoff going into that fight, and many changes in opposition leading to the mysterious switch hitting Nadu, and in the middle of everything his grandmother passed away. So a lot of stuff going on prior to that fight, which may have contributed to the closeness of it, even though some of the judges saw it differently.
This has been a very consistent effort by Mitchell, and in the face of Michael Stewart, who has done some good things in this fight, he's just fighting a fighter with superior ability right now.
But he's a tough, gritty competitor who will hang in there. The bell for 6. Earlier tonight, the arrivals of Ricky Hatton and Dennis Pedersen. Hatton on the left, Pedersen on the right. Hatton thought he was going to fight tall Brazilian slugger Kelson Pinto, who pulled out. Instead, it's late replacement Dennis Pedersen of Denmark. This probably the last thing Pedersen thought he'd been doing tonight, as he enters the Lions Den in Manchester to face the always tenacious Hitman.
Come on, take yourself together. Stay into the building. Mike's got to take it to him. Back up position, just waiting on the shot. Okay?
Set count. Round 7.
Round 7 as Stewart comes out to face the awkward, difficult to counter, hard to hit, cleanly, so sharp defensively, Sharmba Mitchell.
That was a nice description of him. You know what? He will love you for that description.
If I ever MC his roast, I'm ready.
You've got your material, or toast, excellent.
Or his toast.
You know, here we are in round 7, and Stewart has fought in spots well in this fight, but nevertheless he's been down twice and is having a very difficult time dealing with the hand speed of Sharmba Mitchell. So you say to yourself, what can he do? The best thing he can try to do is get on the inside, push him against the ropes, turn this into some kind of brawl where perhaps you can make something happen. His problem in that regard, even if he could do it, is Mitchell has shown as much power or more, certainly, than he has in this fight. So when he throws those punches against Mitchell, when he's got him on the ropes, he leaves himself open for counter shots.
Well, in 56 pro fights, only 3 men have been able to diffuse the quickness and speed of Sharmba Mitchell. 2 of them were back-to-back in '94, Levander Johnson and Steve Johnston, and of course the loss to Kostya Zoo in '01. That was a TKO by 7.
You know, just a moment ago, Stewart got Mitchell against there and ripped just a hellacious left hook to the body, and it landed perfectly, and Mitchell was able to just motor out of there. So Stewart's doing his best. It's just really not good enough right now, and Mitchell displaying all the skills that we're used to seeing from him when he's at the top of his game.
Mike Stewart seeing what it is like to step up to the next level. He clipped him with a left hook, did Stewart.
Is Sharmba Mitchell taking some time off in this round, just kind of re-energizing himself? That's conceivable. It's been a better round for Stewart than he's had, certainly.
And there's that wicked jab, the right jab by Sharmba Mitchell, getting into the eye area of Stewart. The swelling in the cut under the left eye of Stewart, holding up. Not a factor.
In this round, Mitchell has not thrown the jab as much as in early rounds. And you can really trace right back to that, the fact that this hasn't been as good as all the other rounds for Mitchell. But there, you see when he does throw the jab, he's very effective.
And he's targeting that swelled area, the swollen area underneath the left eye of Mike Stewart. Starting to puff up a little bit more now, just in the last minute. But still, the eye seems to be all right. He can see through it just fine. You would think. It's not closed. Round 7 over.
Does not look like he's tired. Look at the back of him, bitch. It's on the loose. I'll pull up some water. Gamble and hit with the right hand when you're not close enough. You got to be closer to hit it with the right hand. Right. You want the right hand thrown at the chest, not at the head. He's getting under it. Let him duck into the shot, okay? Come on, man. We're losing the fight, man. Okay? Don't come all this way to lose. This is a big shot.
Just in case you didn't hear him, maybe you didn't. Leon Tabb saying to Mike Stewart, we didn't come all this way to lose. This is your big shot. Almost like right out of a movie. And Mike Stewart, who refers to himself as a real-life Rocky in this set of circumstances, comes out for round 8.
You know, Stewart has only faced one southpaw before in his professional career. I don't know that that's the issue tonight. He's sparred with a lot of lefties getting ready for this, and it's not that he's fought such an inappropriate fight from a technique standpoint. It's really been more the skill level of Mitchell that's been the problem.
Got a glimpse of Marvin Sims in the corner of Sharmba Mitchell, with Mitchell since he started boxing at the age of 8. So if anybody knows Sharmba Mitchell, it's Marvin Sims. The briefly trained former middleweight champ William Jompy. Well, a lot of folks maybe thought this wouldn't go this deep. Press row scoring. Nobody surprised. All Sharmba Mitchell by big scores.
I have it 69-62 for Mitchell, so I agree with one of those cards. Stewart has never been 12 rounds, so he'll be heading into some tough territory.
Yeah, never passed 10. This is now round 8. Yeah, he's been to the 12th, but all TKO wins inside 8 rounds, but never, you're right, a decision all the way at 12. Of course, Sharmba Mitchell's been 12 rounds 8 times. He's 8-0. He's been 10 rounds 7 times, 7 for 7. But this is a little beyond Mitchell's average, which is 5.9 rounds per fight. We are just spewing out the stats.
Well, they're pertinent. This fight has settled in a little bit, and you wonder, it's interesting from Mitchell's standpoint. You know, he obviously was able to hurt Stewart with the straight left hand, and there's another one. And it's not as if he's not throwing that much, but just hasn't been able to land it perfectly.
Stewart down, rounds 4 and 5. Had never been down before, if you're just joining us, before this fight. Mitchell wanting to end the fight on one punch there, the left hand. We approach 20 seconds remaining, round 8. Scheduled for 12 for the interim IBF 140-pound belt, owned by Shannons Mitchell.
It's a beautiful double left hook on the inside. When he's on the inside, look at the work Stewart can do, but Mitchell's impervious to it.
Mitchell very active, nailed him with a straight left at the belt. Right on the head.
Mike is throwing 1 or 2 shots and bouncing back from the man. You can't win the fight being halfway across the ring. Okay? You've got to stay close. Throw more than 1 punch, man. You can't win this fight throwing 1 punch and stop him and see him balling. Don't do that. Come on, keep punching for as long as you see him, Mike. We're running out of time, Mike. This is the 9th round, Jim. Way behind, Mike.
Just like the tactic, lads. Just like.
Here is Stewart, for some reason, kind of showboating a little bit. I don't know what that was about, because, and really Leon Tabb's kind of referencing that to Stewart, saying, look, your mission here is to be the aggressor, try and work him over on the inside. And that's been part of the problem why he can't. The hand speed and combination punching of Mitchell. I think that was more frustration on his part. But Leon Tabb's saying you got to go after this man. Don't bounce back. Keep punching.
Throw more than 1 punch. 1 punch isn't going to do it. We didn't come halfway around the world to lose, were the words in the corner. Right now, Mike Stewart needs something dramatic to turn this thing around, because he is way behind on the card.
No, they have a common opponent, Teron Millette, a former champion. But even though they both knocked him out in 1 round, Mitchell did it back in '95, and it was much later in last year when Stewart did it, and it was a much different Teron Millette, who obviously had slipped back considerably.
Same thing with former world title challenger Ivan Robinson. Stewart looking impressive there, but Ivan certainly not in his prime.
Put his head down. Box on.
Stewart has won 7 in a row since his only loss. It's a split decision, as mentioned, to Doran Spivey in Philly back in February '02. But on the verge of defeat here, unless he can come up with something very soon.
Mitchell is letting Stewart in a little bit more now, but Stewart hasn't really been able to get as much done as he would like. Still jabs and a counter punching from Mitchell, controlling this round. The right jab's been able to land almost all the time when Mitchell throws it, and that's probably the one big chink in Stewart's armor, that he can be hit up the middle with jabs and straight left hands or right hands if you're a righty.
Under a minute remaining, round 9. Stewart hanging around. Right now, Mitchell is letting him do that.
And you know, the problem for Stewart is he's getting in some pretty good shots to the body, but we're at a point in a fight where those body shots are probably not going to make the difference, and certainly not going to, I'm sure, create a knockout. So his problem is he can't really hit Mitchell to the head like he would like.
Nice left hand, too. Double by Mitchell. Down goes Stewart for the 3rd time of the fight. Beautiful combination.
5, 6, 7, 8.
He got up quickly for the 3rd time.
What's up?
Well, those were like body shots by Shannons Mitchell. Very powerful. And now he wants to end it here in the night. And there's the bell. And Stewart really frustrated with himself. Really upset with himself.
You can't win the fight with your hands down. You can't handle everything you're going to throw. What is this problem, man? You got only 2 rounds to go, Mike.
Well, we've seen this before in this fight. So, unfortunately for him, has Mike Stewart. The jab and the straight left hand. You see the frustration on his part, saying, oh, again, I let him get me with that jab and the straight left. And it's the hand speed of Mitchell. And when he does this, when Sharmba Mitchell establishes the jab as he's done and comes with that quick left hand, very difficult to stop it.
A series of body shots followed by one right on the button upstairs.
10 seconds.
And of course, as I said before this fight, up the middle is where Mitchell would have his best success, and he's been able to do that with the jab and the straight left.
So Stewart down rounds 4, 5, and now 9 as we hit round 10, scheduled for 12. As mentioned earlier, in case you're just joining us, Stewart had never been down before in 38 pro fights, down 3 times at the hands of Sharmba.
I'm sure Sharmba is feeling a great deal of satisfaction about this performance, as well he should. Not only has he been sharp in terms of boxing, he's shown power and has, I think, made a little bit of a statement that the Love More to Do bout, which he did win, there's no question about that, even though it wasn't, he called it a horrible performance, that fight was an aberration, and that for anyone thinking that Sharmba Mitchell somehow was on the decline, he's indicating that's not the case tonight.
And Stewart keeps plugging away. Landed earlier, getting the crowd going a little bit. Get the fresh row scoring as Mitchell ahead heavily. Claude Abrams from Boxing News, Cornell Campbell, IrishBoxing.com. Ron Lewis locally from the Times.
You know, Steve, if there's a message here that's being sent vis-a-vis Mitchell to the Hatton people, even though they may say, well, our guy's quicker, and he throws those left hooks a little better, and he does a few things differently than Mike Stewart, which may well be the case, Mitchell is making the point that if you come in to attack me, even if you hit me with some left hooks to the body, I'm not going to fold. You better double with that. You better hit me very hard to the head, because I can take some shots, and meanwhile, I'm going to be peppering you straight down the middle. They're going to take note of that, or they should.
And Ricky Hatton, who is a consummate preparer, he studies the tapes, he watches everything. He doesn't let anything slip by him in preparation for a fight, so he'll notice everything about Sharmba Mitchell. There is a proposed get-together between Hatton and Mitchell on June 5th, but they haven't signed the papers yet. Of course, we have to get past this night first.
And while Mitchell is well along the way of doing it, of course, Hatton will try and beat Dennis Pedersen following this. And if that's the case, we may well see the bout between those two.
Of course, the bout that Mitchell really wanted was the rematch with Costa Tszyu, and he's all but given up on that. He thinks Tszyu is finished, done, coming off the shoulder surgery problem. And he legitimately feels, genuinely feels that Tszyu does not want to get in there with him.
And that remains to be seen. We have no word from Tszyu yet. When he was injured, he said he was going to fight Mitchell, so we'll see how it flies. But if there is a Mitchell-Hatton fight, it would be very entertaining. And this fight kind of proves that in a way, strangely, because when Stewart has done some things like Hatton, he's been a little bit effective, and it's been a good matchup.
Right there.
Good work, man.
Standing up, you got me yourself. You got to throw the right hand off his jab, your left hook, hook to the right hook, right hand, another left hook, okay? You got to do it.
Step down. Round 11.
Well, 3 knockdowns of Michael Stewart. 10 rounds later, here we go, round 11.
And as we noted earlier, Michael Stewart has never seen the 11th round, so he is in uncharted territory.
A fight that is being dominated by the left-hander Shannons Mitchell, who started boxing back in 1988, so it's his 17th year in the sport.
And he was quite candid with us, you know, while he has zeal for the sport. We even asked him if he'd seen Stewart. He said, oh, I don't really watch that much boxing when I'm not doing it. Unlike Stewart, who said there can't be enough boxing on TV. He's a huge fan. Shannons Mitchell is really at that point in life where he's trying to put a cap around his career in the right way, but it's a business.
Mitchell has other interests as well. He's an entrepreneur. He's involved in the music business. I think he's an agent for certain people in the music business, and also very much a fan of the sport of hoops, basketball.
Yeah, and he's only a year and a half away from getting his bachelor's degree from Maryland University. So he's an eclectic guy with a lot of interest, and his danger, of course, is to make sure that he's as focused on boxing as he needs to be during this latter part of his career. So far tonight, we're seeing a lot of focus.
He's a good friend of Steve Francis of the Houston Rockets. They went to college together.
Come on, man. Keep your hands up and stay focused.
So we continue in round 11 for the interim IBF championship.
We said there was satisfaction on the part of Shannons Mitchell. Even though I know it's not what he wanted, Michael Stewart will get high marks for grittiness and determination, hanging in there after 3 knockdowns. And I know he would at the very least like to make sure he goes the distance in this fight.
Under a minute, round 11. In case you're wondering exactly what the term interim title means, well, it could be interpreted a couple of ways. For the sanctioning body, in this case the IBF, it's for an interim title. If the reigning world champion isn't able to fight for a long period of time, giving somebody else a chance to become champion. Kostya hasn't fought in over a year. He'll be out almost 18 months before he can get back in the ring again, so that's the reason, they say. But to the cynic, it could mean the boxing organization is looking for more sanctioning fees. So it conveniently created an interim title.
You know, Stewart inside still whacking the body of Shannons Mitchell. And, you know, no matter what, Mitchell, of course, a terrifically conditioned athlete, he's going to be sore around the ribs, even after having won a lopsided victory and scoring 3 knockdowns.
Well, according to his promoter manager, Gary Shaw, Shannons will be happy to know he'll have at least a week to recover before the next fight.
Yeah, exactly.
That ought to be enough.
I'm gonna tell you, on the floor. Last round coming, last round. No curly stuff. So much better. He's coming out winging. All right? Keep your hand.
You're missing it. You haven't hit it yet all night. Okay? You gotta rip it. Throw it right here, left hook behind it. Once you miss one shot, you don't do anymore.
No chance.
Interesting fight in one sense, a lopsided situation for the man on the left, Shannons Mitchell, but for the man on the right, Stewart, nothing to really be ashamed of.
He's a 26-year-old who is facing, Shannons Mitchell is fighting as well as he can fight right now. Stewart's hanging in there, but the level, the skill level difference between these two fighters is very apparent. And it's demonstrating why Mitchell is an upper echelon junior welterweight and Stewart is more of a fringe top 10 contender.
What's the old expression? Welcome to the show. Michael Stewart in the show against Shannons Mitchell. 12th and final, they touch gloves. Here we go. Nice round of applause, of appreciation by the fans congregating here at the Manchester Evening News Arena, the MEN, as it's finally called, and racing for the big main event, featuring their hero, Ricky Hatton.
And they're getting a look at Shannons Mitchell, who they might be facing Ricky Hatton possibly as early as June. And I'm sure they're scouting, looking at him and saying, okay, let's think now how he might do against Hatton. And, you know, part of the issue is we know that Stewart kind of stepped up in class. And while Hatton has fought Benteke, he was supposed to fight tonight Kelson Pinto, a much better fighter, not doing that in Pedersen. The question is, will he be able to step up against Sharmba Mitchell? That'll be the questions he has to answer.
And as Mitchell got a very warm greeting and round of applause upon his entrance into the arena tonight, it will certainly be a different story if he meets Ricky Hatton June 5th.
The jab of Mitchell, again, that's been a punch that has helped him control this fight. That and the straight left hand, it's helped him create 3 knockdowns in rounds 4, 5, and 9. The slip. I always worry with Mitchell when there's a slip or something untoward that those knee issues might flare up again.
Come on, baby.
As we approach the final minute of the final round, our co-feature from Manchester, Mitchell really scoring here. Lefts and rights, downstairs and upstairs, showing his speed, quickness in the late going, showing he's in very good condition. He's had Stewart down on 3 occasions in this fight. Last time was round 9.
And you know, the Sharmba Mitchell we've seen recently puts to rest the idea that somehow he's a spoiler type fighter who moves and is so slick that he can't make interesting fights. People sometimes said that about Sharmba Mitchell, but especially here in his almost mid-30s, there's movement, but there's also enough power punching, there's enough exchanges, enough battling on the inside to make it interesting.
Final 10 seconds. And this one, certainly not in doubt. Appreciative applause from this crowd in Manchester. Sharmba Mitchell knows it's in the bag.
All day long.
That was an effort that he will not label horrible afterwards, and no one else should either.
Yeah, that was his own word description of his last outing against Loveborn Adu. Certainly a different story here tonight against Mike Stewart.
In the last round of the fight, a moment that probably causes his people to have their hearts go up into their throat, and that's the slip by Sharmba Mitchell, and that was a very awkward slip, and because of his knee issues that we've chronicled, you always are concerned about that creating an injury, and this really was an awkward slip, and hit with the right hand as he's going down by Michael Stewart as well.
We saw this in the Nadu fight as well a couple of months ago, and he bounced back up from that one too. Seems to be very spry. Sometimes you really think that this guy has discovered the fountain of youth.
You know, a series of excellent fights after the Zoo fight. Then he won the Nadu fight. We need to not overemphasize that he didn't fight well, because he did win it, but it just wasn't a great effort. And so everything he's done in the last couple of years, except for that one fight, has really been excellent, and very important, I think, for him to make this statement tonight, and he did.
So we will be set for the official numbers as we get it up to our ring announcer, Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of action, we go to the scorecards. We have a unanimous decision. Here are the score totals. Judge at ringside, Dave Paris, scores about 117 to 109. Judge at ringside, Roy Francis, he's at 120 to 106. And Howard Foster scores about 120 to 105. All three in favor of the winner, and still champion, the little big man, Sharmba Mitchell.
So Sharmba Mitchell makes the first successful defense of his interim title. Impressive performance, upping his record to 54-3, 7-0 since the loss to Zoo. Meanwhile, Michael Stewart suffers only his second defeat, now 35-2-2. a successful British debut for the little big man. And we'll see if this indeed sets up a showdown with Ricky Hatton should the Hitman cooperate in the main event.
There was power from Sharmba Mitchell. It started in round 4, where he would, for the first time in this matchup, send Michael Stewart down. It would be using the jab and the left half uppercut, half straight left, and then another straight left. And that would become a running theme in this fight, because that is exactly how he would create other knockdowns. Here in round 5, almost the same scenario. It would be the jab, setting things up, and then the straight left hand comes behind it. And that, of course, was the one area that Stewart seemed most vulnerable to, the straight punches by Sharmba Mitchell, and that was exactly, as it turns out, what helped him create knockdowns. And have you seen this before? Well, take a look again, because in round 9, the exact same thing. A jab and a straight left hand sent Stewart down, and those were different knockdowns, folks, not the same ones.
Well, after this, Mitchell said his goals are 1 more belt and 3 more fights to get it to 60 overall. That remains to be seen. But a no doubt about it performance tonight by 16-plus year veteran, former WBA super lightweight champion Sharmba Mitchell. Mitchell being interviewed by Sky TV here. He'll be with us momentarily alongside promoters Gary Shaw and Frank Warren. Up next from Manchester, England, our main event, the People's Choice. Ricky Hatton having to switch gears at the last minute when Kelson Pinto canceled out. Instead, Hatton meets Dennis Pedersen of Denmark. But first, post-fight reaction with Steve Farhood.
Thanks, Steve. Sharmba, it looked like you were just doing what you wanted in there. Is that accurate?
First of all, I want to thank God, the man upstairs, for getting me through my training camp safe and getting me here safe in England. I love England. I went in there and I did what I wanted to do. That's come back here, show the fans, show my gracious and lovable commentators here on Showtime that I'm not gone anywhere. Mentally, I wasn't there in Indu. Here, you can see, whole different Sharmba Mitchell. And man, I want to thank everybody, man. My corporation, helping our brothers out, Sportswear Hobo, that's what this thing stands for.
Sharmba, was it frustrating at all or annoying at all that you put him down 3 times but you couldn't keep him down?
No, I just wanted to feel as though that I could do that. And I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to rush in there and just rush into anything, because he was the kind of fighter that could just wing up and throw anything. I'm too smart for that. I'm just too experienced to just go rush in there. Anybody else probably would have rushed in there thinking that he was really, really hurt and, you know, probably would have got knocked out. But right. I want to just go in there and execute perfection.
If Kostya doesn't defend against you by November, you would lose that interim tag and be the regular champ. But clearly that's not what you're waiting for. You've been so busy. Is another fight, they're talking about Ricky Hatton in June. That's only 2 months away. Is that comfortable for you?
That's what they're talking about. If the money is right, then I'll come over here to England. If the money is short, then come over to the U.S. Really, Ricky Hatton, really show what you really are. Come on over there. I've been overseas. I've taken belts from overseas. I've defended my belt for overseas. Come overseas and come get mine from my hometown, and then come back over here, and maybe we can do a rematch if you can get away. But I doubt if that happened. I'm the best at this 140 pounds, man. Nothing can stop me right now. I'm going to execute what I really want to do with my career and get out of it as a world champion.
And how tough a challenge is Ricky Hatton?
According to PMG and Gary Shaw, I don't see where he's, you know, much of a fighter that I just fought. I think that they're pretty much the same, except Ricky probably throws just a little bit more punches than he does.
Sharmba, congratulations. We look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks a lot.